Hello, hello, English learners! Welcome back to the Daily English Lab, the place where you improve your English with real conversations, useful vocabulary, and ideas that might just change the way you see the world. I'm Lily.
And I'm Henry. Welcome back, everyone. Grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you're drinking today.
Unless it's your fourth coffee.
Don't judge me.
I'm not judging you. I'm just a little concerned.
Concerned?
I've seen you drink coffee at 9 o'clock at night.
That's called confidence.
No, that's called making terrible life decisions.
And yet, somehow, I still sleep.
I honestly don't know how.
It's one of life's greatest mysteries.
Right after, where do all the missing socks go?
Exactly. Every washing machine has a secret collection of lonely socks somewhere.
I'm convinced they all meet in another dimension.
If anyone ever finds it, please let us know. I have approximately 14 single socks waiting.
Poor socks. Anyway, can I ask you something?
Of course.
Have you ever been in a room where everyone was talking at the same time?
Oh, every family dinner.
Fair enough. But seriously, everyone is talking. Everyone wants to share an opinion. Some people are interrupting each other. Some are trying to be funny. Some are trying to sound clever. And then there's one person who barely says anything.
I know exactly the kind of person you mean.
Here's the strange part. When that quiet person finally speaks, everyone suddenly listens.
That's true. It's almost like their words somehow carry more weight.
Exactly. And I've always wondered, why does that happen?
Is it because they're smarter?
Or do they simply choose their words more carefully?
That's actually a really interesting question. Because we've all heard people say things like, smart people don't talk much. The wisest person in the room is usually the quietest.
But is that really true? Or is it just one of those ideas that sounds nice, but isn't always true?
That's exactly what we're going to explore today. Not whether intelligent people always stay quiet, because they don't, but why many thoughtful people often choose to listen first, think carefully, and speak only when they feel they have something meaningful to say.
And along the way, you'll learn lots of useful English vocabulary, natural expressions, and real conversational English you can actually use.
So get comfortable, listen carefully, repeat whenever you can, and let's discover whether silence is really a sign of intelligence, or whether there's much more to the story.
Let's get started. So, let's start with the big question. Do smart people really stay quiet?
My first answer would be sometimes.
That's a very safe answer.
Well, it's true. If I simply said yes, half our listeners would disagree. If I said no, the other half would disagree. So I'm trying to survive the comment section.
Probably a wise decision.
See? Maybe staying quiet really is smart after all.
Or maybe you're just trying not to get canceled.
That's also possible.
But seriously, I think we've all experienced something interesting. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the quietest person in the room feels like the smartest one?
Yes, and I've always wondered why.
Me too. Imagine you're in a meeting. Everyone is talking. Some people are speaking really fast. Some people interrupt each other. Some people keep repeating the same ideas over and over.
Sounds like half the meetings I've ever attended.
Exactly. Then there's one person, they've barely said a word. They're just sitting there, listening, watching, thinking. And after 10 or 15 minutes, they finally say one sentence.
And somehow, everyone stops talking.
Exactly. It's almost like their words suddenly have more weight.
That's a beautiful expression. When we say someone's words carry weight, we mean people take them seriously. Their words feel important and meaningful.
Right. It's not because they used bigger words or because they spoke louder. Sometimes it's simply because they didn't speak all the time.
You know, that reminds me of something.
What?
Imagine someone sends you 50 messages every day. Every 5 minutes, bing, another one, bing, another one. Eventually, you stop paying attention.
That's true. Sometimes I even forget to reply.
But imagine another friend. They only message you once every few days. When your phone lights up, you immediately think, oh, I wonder what they have to say.
That's actually a great comparison. Sometimes less really does create more attention.
Exactly. When someone speaks less, people often become more curious about what they're going to say.
That's another useful word. Curious means wanting to know more about something. For example, I'm curious to hear your opinion. It means I'm interested in what you're going to say.
But here's something really important. I don't think being quiet automatically makes someone intelligent.
I completely agree, because there are many reasons why people stay quiet.
Exactly. Some people are quiet because they're thinking. Some people are quiet because they're shy. Some people are quiet because they're nervous. Some people are simply tired.
Or maybe they haven't had their morning coffee yet.
That's definitely me.
So silence by itself doesn't tell us very much.
Exactly. And the opposite is true as well. Talking a lot doesn't automatically mean someone isn't intelligent.
That's such an important point, because I know people who think by talking.
Me too. They don't organize their ideas first. They organize them while they're speaking.
That's a really useful expression. To think out loud means saying your thoughts while you're still thinking about them. Instead of keeping everything in your head, you speak your ideas as they come.
Exactly. So if someone talks a lot, it doesn't necessarily mean they're trying to impress everyone. Sometimes that's simply how they think.
Which means maybe we've been asking the wrong question.
What do you think the right question is?
Instead of asking, do smart people talk less? Maybe we should ask, why do some thoughtful people choose to stay quiet in certain situations?
Ooh, I like that question much more, because now we're talking about a choice, not a personality.
Exactly. Some people don't stay quiet because they have nothing to say. They stay quiet because they're waiting for the right moment.
That reminds me of an old saying. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so maybe you should use them in that order.
I've heard something similar before, and I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
It doesn't mean we should never speak. It simply reminds us that listening is just as important as talking, maybe even more important sometimes.
And I think that's where today's conversation really begins, because the people who seem the wisest aren't always the ones who know the most. Sometimes they're simply the ones who listen the best.
I love that. So here's the next question. What exactly makes listening so powerful?
That's what we're about to explore, because listening isn't just about being polite. It might actually be one of the most valuable communication skills you can develop.
And trust me, this idea completely changed the way I have conversations.
And believe me, it might change yours too.
So, can I confess something?
Of course, I'm a little worried already.
Fair enough. Sometimes when someone is talking to me, I'm not really listening.
Really?
Well, I'm pretending to listen, but inside my head, I'm already thinking about what I'm going to say next.
I think we've all done that.
You know that moment? Someone is explaining something, they're only halfway through the story, and your brain suddenly says, "Quick, think of something clever to say."
Exactly. Meanwhile, the other person is still talking and you've already stopped listening.
Then they ask, "So, what do you think?"
And you're like, could you repeat the last part?
Exactly.
That's actually much more common than people realize. Many of us don't listen. We simply wait for our turn to speak.
That's such an interesting difference. Listening and waiting. They sound similar, but they're completely different.
Exactly. Waiting means, please finish talking so I can finally say what I want. Listening means I genuinely want to understand what you're trying to tell me.
I love that, because suddenly the conversation isn't about you anymore. It's about the other person.
That's another useful word. Genuinely means honestly or sincerely. If you genuinely care, your interest is real. You're not pretending.
Exactly. So if you genuinely listen, you're not listening to prepare your answer. You're listening to understand.
You know, I learned this lesson the hard way.
Oh? What happened?
A friend was telling me about a difficult week. She'd had problems at work, she was feeling stressed, and honestly, she just needed someone to listen.
Sounds like she needed a good friend.
Exactly. But instead, I immediately started giving advice. You should do this. Why don't you try that? If I were you.
Let me guess, that didn't go very well.
Not at all. She looked at me and said, I don't need solutions right now. I just need someone to hear me.
Wow, that's powerful.
It really stayed with me because I realized I wasn't actually listening. I was trying to fix the problem before I fully understood it.
I think that's something many of us do, especially when we care about someone. We think helping means finding answers.
But sometimes helping simply means listening.
That's another useful word. To interrupt means to stop someone while they're speaking. For example, please don't interrupt me. It means let me finish what I'm saying.
And interruptions don't always happen with words.
That's true. Sometimes your face interrupts.
What do you mean?
You know, when someone is talking and you suddenly make that face like, no way, or that's impossible.
I've definitely done that.
Me too. And suddenly the other person changes what they were going to say, not because they wanted to, but because they saw your reaction.
Wow, I've never thought about that before.
Here's another question. Have you ever noticed how much people enjoy talking to someone who truly listens?
Absolutely. In fact, have you ever met someone who actually doesn't talk very much, but somehow everyone loves having conversations with them?
Yes, and it's usually because they make other people feel heard.
That's such a beautiful expression. To feel heard means feeling that someone is really listening to you, understanding you, and taking your thoughts seriously.
Exactly. And honestly, that's one of the greatest gifts you can give another person.
I remember reading something that said, people may forget what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
I like that. Because when someone truly listens, you feel respected, you feel important, you feel understood.
And isn't that what all of us want?
I think so.
You know, there's another reason listening is so powerful.
What's that?
Because every person you meet knows something that you don't.
Ooh, I love that idea.
Think about it. Every person has lived a different life, different experiences, different mistakes, different lessons.
Which means every conversation is an opportunity to learn something new.
Exactly. But if you're always talking, you leave very little room to learn.
That's another useful word, perspective. A perspective is the way someone sees or understands a situation. Two people can look at the same event and have completely different perspectives.
And that's why listening matters, because it allows us to borrow someone else's perspective, even for a few minutes.
You know, I used to think the smartest person in the room was the one with all the answers.
Really?
Yeah. Now I think it's often the person asking the best questions.
I couldn't agree more, because good questions make people think. Good questions make people open up. Good questions teach you far more than talking about yourself ever could.
So maybe being intelligent isn't about proving how much you know.
Maybe it's about being curious enough to discover what you don't know yet.
I love that. So next time you're having a conversation, try something different. Instead of thinking, what should I say next? Ask yourself, what can I learn from this person? That one small question might completely change the way you listen.
And, speaking of questions, there's another habit I've noticed in thoughtful people.
What's that?
They don't rush to answer. They give themselves time to think.
And in today's world, that almost feels unusual.
Exactly. Everyone wants instant answers, but maybe the best answers are the ones that take a little longer.
And that's exactly what we're going to explore next, why some of the wisest people aren't afraid of silence, even in the middle of a conversation. Can I ask you something a little strange?
After today's conversation, I'm expecting strange questions. Go ahead.
Have you ever been in a conversation where someone asks you a question and then they just look at you without saying anything?
Yes! And somehow, those 3 seconds feel like 3 hours.
Exactly. Suddenly you're thinking, should I keep talking? Did I say something wrong? Why are they staring at me?
Or even worse, you start explaining something, they stay completely silent, and you panic.
Right. Then you keep talking and talking and talking, trying to fill the silence.
Until 5 minutes later, you realize you've accidentally told them your entire life story.
Including things they never asked about.
Exactly.
Isn't it funny? Most of us seem to be afraid of silence.
That's true. It's almost like we believe every second has to be filled with words.
Why do you think that is?
Maybe because silence makes us uncomfortable. When nobody is talking, our brain immediately starts asking questions. Is something wrong? Are they bored? Do they disagree with me? Did I say something stupid?
That's another useful word. Uncomfortable. If something feels uncomfortable, it doesn't feel relaxed or easy. It makes you feel a little nervous or awkward.
Exactly. And because silence feels uncomfortable, many people rush to fill it.
You know, I used to do that all the time.
Really?
Oh yes, if there was even 2 seconds of silence, I'd immediately say something. Anything, literally anything.
Give us an example.
Well, imagine we're doing dinner. You stop talking for a moment, and suddenly I say, "Did you know octopuses have 3 hearts?"
What? Where did that come from?
I have no idea. My brain just thought, quick, say something before the silence gets awkward.
Poor octopus. It didn't deserve to be dragged into the conversation.
But then I realized something. Sometimes people aren't silent because they have nothing to say. They're silent because they're thinking.
That's such an important difference. Thinking takes time, and today we're not very patient with thinking.
Exactly. Someone asks a question and we expect an answer immediately.
But have you noticed the people who give the most thoughtful answers often pause first?
Yes, they don't rush. They take a breath. They think. Then they answer.
That's another useful word. Thoughtful. A thoughtful person thinks carefully before speaking or acting. They don't react immediately. They reflect first.
I actually admire people who can do that.
Me too, because it takes confidence.
Really? I would have thought confidence meant speaking quickly.
Not necessarily. Sometimes confidence is being comfortable enough to say, let me think about that.
Wow, I like that, because there's no pressure to have the perfect answer instantly.
Exactly. We've somehow created this idea that the fastest answer must be the smartest answer.
But that's rarely true.
Think about your favorite teacher or someone you really respect. Do they answer every question immediately?
Not always. Sometimes they stop, look up, smile, and think for a moment.
And somehow that pause makes you trust their answer even more.
That's another interesting word, pause. A pause is simply a short moment of silence before continuing. For example, she paused before answering the question.
And pauses aren't empty. Sometimes a pause says, I'm taking your question seriously.
I never thought about it like that.
You know, there's another reason thoughtful people aren't afraid of silence.
What's that?
Because they're not trying to impress everyone.
Ah, that's interesting.
Imagine 2 people. One person feels they have to prove they're intelligent, so they answer every question. They give an opinion about everything, even things they don't really know much about.
I think we've all met someone like that.
Now imagine someone else. If they don't know the answer, they simply say, I'm not sure, or I don't know enough about that.
Honestly, I respect that much more.
Me too, because admitting you don't know something often takes more confidence than pretending you do.
That's another useful expression, to pretend. If you pretend, you act as if something is true even when it isn't.
Exactly. And the smartest people I've met aren't afraid to say, I don't know, because they know learning starts right there.
You know what? I think that's one of the biggest differences. Some people think silence makes them look weak, but maybe silence sometimes shows strength.
I couldn't agree more, because real confidence isn't feeling the need to speak all the time. Real confidence is knowing that your value doesn't disappear just because you're quiet for a few seconds.
That's a powerful thought.
And honestly, I think this idea can help English learners too.
Oh, how?
Well, many learners panic during conversations. Someone asks them a question and they think, I have to answer immediately.
That's so true.
But you don't. Native speakers pause too. You can smile, take a breath, and say, that's a good question. Or, let me think for a second. That's completely natural English.
I love that advice, because suddenly there's less pressure. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to communicate.
Exactly. And speaking of pressure, there's one habit that makes conversations even more difficult.
What's that?
People who believe they always have to be right.
Ooh, now that's going to be an interesting conversation.
I have a feeling our listeners are going to enjoy the next part.
Stay with us because we're about to talk about why truly intelligent people are surprisingly comfortable with saying, I was wrong. Okay, can I ask you another question?
You've been asking a lot of questions today.
Well, that's because I'm trying to sound intelligent.
Nice strategy. Is it working?
I have absolutely no idea.
Well, at least you're honest.
You know, that reminds me of something. When I was younger, I hated saying, I don't know.
Really?
Oh, yes. I thought it made me look less intelligent. So whenever someone asked me a difficult question, I'd try to answer anyway, even if I wasn't completely sure.
I think a lot of people do that. Sometimes we're more afraid of looking uninformed than we are of being wrong.
Exactly. And that's a dangerous combination.
Here's something I've noticed. The people who know the most are often the first to admit when they don't know something.
That's true, because they understand something important. No one knows everything.
Exactly. And pretending that you do usually creates more problems.
That's another useful word, pretend. To pretend means to act as if something is true, even when it isn't. For example, he pretended to understand the instructions, but deep down, he was completely confused.
I think every student has done that at least once.
Absolutely. The teacher asks, is everything clear? Everyone smiles, everyone nods, and inside they're thinking, I understood absolutely nothing.
Then everyone secretly waits for the smartest student to ask the question they're all afraid to ask.
That's so true. And do you know what's funny? The student who asks the question often helps the entire class.
Exactly, because chances are many other people were wondering the same thing. They just didn't want to admit it.
I think our ego gets in the way sometimes.
That's a great word, ego. Your ego is the part of you that wants to protect your image. It wants people to think you're capable, smart, or successful.
And sometimes our ego whispers, don't ask the question. Don't admit you're confused. Just pretend you understand.
But learning doesn't happen when we're pretending. Learning happens when we're curious enough to say, can you explain that again?
You know, I've started saying something much more often.
What's that?
I'm not sure, or I don't know enough about that.
I actually respect people who say that.
Me too, because it tells me they care more about the truth than about looking clever.
That's another useful expression, to admit. To admit means to honestly accept something. For example, he admitted he had made a mistake.
And honestly, admitting that you don't know something is often the first step toward actually learning it.
There's another thing I've noticed. Really intelligent people ask lots of questions.
That's true, because they're curious, not because they're trying to impress anyone.
Exactly. Think about children. They ask why, how, what happens if, again and again and again.
Sometimes so many times that their parents start questioning their own existence.
Exactly. Why is the sky blue? Because of the atmosphere. Why? Because of sunlight. Why? After the fifth why of a parent is ready to call a scientist.
Or Google. Definitely Google.
But children ask questions because they genuinely want to understand.
Somewhere along the way, many adults stop asking, not because they're no longer curious, but because they're afraid of looking foolish.
Which is a shame because questions are often the fastest way to grow.
You know, there's a quote I really like.
Go on.
The moment you stop pretending to know everything is the moment you start learning faster.
I love that because real confidence isn't saying, I know. Real confidence is saying, teach me.
And I think that's especially important for anyone learning English.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to say, sorry, I don't understand. Or, could you say that again? Or, what does that word mean?
Native speakers hear those questions all the time. There's nothing embarrassing about asking.
In fact, asking questions is one of the fastest ways to improve your English.
So maybe the smartest people aren't the ones who always have the answers.
Maybe they're the ones who never stop learning.
I like that much better.
And speaking of learning, there's one final habit that quietly connects everything we've talked about today. Listening, thinking, staying calm, asking questions, admitting when you don't know.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Do you?
Well, I'm not completely sure.
Good answer.
Stay with us, because in the final part, we're going to talk about the habit that quietly ties all of these ideas together, and it might be the biggest sign of wisdom of all.
You know, the more we talk about this, the more I realize something.
What's that?
None of these habits are really about being quiet. They're about being intentional.
I like that word.
Me too. Being intentional means doing something on purpose, not by accident, not automatically. You choose your actions carefully.
That's interesting because someone can be very talkative and still be intentional.
Exactly. And someone can be very quiet without thinking at all.
So it isn't really about the number of words, it's about the quality of them.
Imagine two people. The first person speaks every time there's a silence. The second person listens, thinks, and only speaks when they feel they can add something useful. Who do you think people are more likely to remember?
Probably the second person, not because they talked less, but because when they did speak, people felt it mattered.
Exactly. Sometimes one thoughtful sentence can stay in someone's mind for years.
You know, I've noticed something else. The people I admire the most aren't usually trying to be the center of attention.
That's true. They're usually focused on the conversation, not on themselves.
That's another useful expression, the center of attention. If you're the center of attention, everyone is looking at you or listening to you.
And some people spend so much energy trying to become the center of attention that they forget to pay attention.
That's a clever sentence.
Thank you. I was hoping you'd notice.
See, I was listening.
Good answer.
I think social media has made this even harder.
How so?
We're constantly encouraged to share our opinions, comment, react, post, reply, say something, anything, immediately.
That's true. Silence almost feels unusual now.
But maybe we don't always need an opinion about everything.
I agree. Sometimes it's perfectly okay to say, I need more time to think about that.
That's actually something I've been trying to practice. Instead of reacting immediately, I try to ask myself one simple question.
Which is?
Is what I'm about to say helpful?
Oh, I love that. Not, will this make me sound smart? Not, will people agree with me? Just, will it help?
Exactly. That one question changes everything.
You know what's funny? When we started today's conversation, I thought we were going to talk about quiet people.
Me too.
But now, I don't think this conversation was ever really about silence.
I don't think so either.
I think it was about respect. Respect for other people's ideas, respect for different perspectives, and even respect for our own words.
Because if our words matter, we don't need to use them every second.
There's another beautiful word, wisdom. Wisdom isn't just having knowledge, it's knowing when to use that knowledge.
That's a really important difference. You can know many things,
But wisdom helps you choose the right words at the right moment for the right reason.
So, do smart people really stay quiet?
Smart people? Sometimes.
We're back where we started.
Exactly, because I still think that's the most honest answer. Some do, some don't, but many thoughtful people have something in common. They listen carefully, they're comfortable with silence, they're curious, they ask questions, they're not afraid to say, "I don't know." And when they finally speak, they try to leave the conversation better than they found it.
I think that's a beautiful goal. Not to be the smartest person in the room, but to be the person who helps everyone think a little more deeply.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Good, because if you had, I'd have interrupted you.
See, we're still working on our listening skills.
Always.
And maybe that's the biggest lesson of today. Intelligence isn't a competition. It's a lifelong journey of learning, listening, and growing.
Exactly. None of us gets it right all the time. We're all still learning. And honestly, that's one of the best things about life, because there's always something new to discover.
So the next time you're in a conversation, don't worry about saying the most. Don't worry about sounding the smartest. Instead, listen with curiosity. Think before you speak. And remember, sometimes the most meaningful words come after a moment of silence.
Beautifully said. You know, when we started today's conversation, we asked a very simple question. Do smart people really stay quiet? At first, it sounded like a question with a simple answer. Maybe yes, maybe no, but after everything we've talked about today, I don't think that's the right question anymore.
I don't think so either, because this conversation was never really about silence. It was about something much deeper. It was about listening, thinking, learning, being curious, and having the confidence to admit that we don't know everything.
Exactly. Some intelligent people talk a lot, some hardly speak at all. There's no single personality that defines intelligence.
But there is one habit that many thoughtful people seem to share. They don't feel the need to prove they're the smartest person in the room. They're much more interested in understanding the room.
I love that, because maybe real intelligence isn't about collecting attention. Maybe it's about collecting understanding.
That's beautifully said. You know, one conversation can teach us something. One good question can completely change the way we think. And sometimes one quiet moment can say more than 100 words ever could.
So the next time you're talking with someone, don't worry about having the perfect answer. Don't worry about sounding impressive. Instead, be curious. Listen carefully. Ask thoughtful questions. And don't be afraid to pause before you speak.
And if one day you find yourself saying, "I don't know," don't see it as a weakness. See it as the beginning of learning something new.
Because none of us knows everything. And honestly, that's what makes life so interesting. Every person we meet knows something we don't. Every conversation is an opportunity to grow if we're willing to truly listen.
And maybe that's the biggest lesson of today's episode. The smartest people aren't trying to win conversations, they're trying to learn from them.
We hope today's conversation helped you improve your English and maybe gave you a new way of thinking about communication.
If it did, tell us in the comments, what's one lesson from today's episode that stayed with you the most? We'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, announcement time. We have a full collection of English learning PDFs waiting for you right now. Speaking challenges, vocabulary flashcards, conversation workbooks, native speaker phrase guides, IELTS practice packs, and more.
Everything you need to practice English outside of this podcast, all in one place.
Link is in the description. And remember, every conversation is another chance to improve your English. So keep listening, keep speaking, keep making mistakes, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep learning. One conversation, one new word, one new idea at a time.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Take care of yourselves, keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.